Hey, good afternoon. Hope you're all doing well. In this video, I'm going to go over my 2 years of experience in this 2020 Toyota RAV4. So after about 2.5 years, this car's got 33,000 miles. And
out of these 33,000 miles though, 20 of them were just in the first year alone. I definitely went a little ham on the road trips. We went down to like Arizona, Joshua Tree, Yosemite, SoCal, Pismo Beach, Oregon, Washington State, and Taco Bell. Heck yeah.
So if you've owned a car, I mean, you've tried all of this too. I'm talking eating, dozing off in the driver's seat in the parking lot, sleeping in the back, camping, getting door dinged, flat tires, pets going in, out, and even on top of your ride.
And you don't see this very often, but I'm gonna give you what it looks like at nighttime inside the RAV4 as well.
Yes, I'm going to give you all these perspectives, and I'm not going to give you that expert car review video with the technical jargon like, the torque doesn't really matter because when the engine RPM goes high, you're still slow as... No. Like, I'm just going to give you an honest, real perspective of what it's like to really live with this ride. I'm talking like going to IKEA and seeing how much furniture that I don't need can actually jam up in the back. Or when I go to Costco, you know, how high can I get that Costco bill this time?
I specifically chose the front wheel drive model only because since most of my driving is just daily on a highway, I wanted to get the most gas mileage plus save a little bit on maintenance costs compared to an all-wheel drive maintenance. And just because it is a front wheel drive only does not mean that it's not capable. No. You could still take it to a lot of amazing places. It's a matter of respecting the conditions. So driving slower, bringing the right equipment right. So the snow tires if you need them, chains when they're required. The most dangerous element in a road trip are those McDonald's drive-thrus. Let me tell you, those dollar menus are dangerous. And speaking of tire safety, Toyota does at least provide a proper spare tire in the back still. And we actually had to use this not even 1 hour into our trip to Yosemite last year. So this came in handy. And it was lucky that we were within 10 minutes of a tire center. So we did have the spare replaced with a proper size tire again so that we continued our trip to Yosemite safely, because I would not recommend using the spare for that. Oh, also, we got the all-weather mat. So this is clutch also, especially if you're gonna be doing a lot of hiking and outdoor stuff. So yeah, this is a complete mess, but thankfully it is not a cloth mat. I'll really be comparing a lot of the experiences in my RAV4 compared to my previous car, which is a 2004 Toyota Celera. But this car, you know, took me to a lot of places in its 240,000 miles that I've got on it. I mean, I've taken this thing up also to, you know, the mountains, taken it to the beach, random stretches of just highway around the country. And it just goes to show that if a car can take you to these places, then obviously the RAV4 is more than capable, no matter how many wheel drive you select. And let's be real, the typical RAV4 driver probably gets most of its incline from parking garages anyway. As far as comfort goes, I will give it to the Celera though for having seats that are a little bit more plush, softer, and overall just a lot more comfortable for long distance driving. But of course, the most important opinion is that of the wifey.
Which car is more comfortable for you? The SUV or the white Celera?
I like both.
Oh, okay, there it is. That is the most important response.
We gotta address the elephant in the room, and that's the noise of this vehicle. How loud is the engine, which
The engine could be a little bit loud.
you know, again, this is me coming from a car that was 20 years old, which is a Celera. It just felt like that car and most older cars were just built more solid. So I think the reason why this RAV4 seems to be louder is because I could hear all the outside noise as well. I'm talking about like the tires from the cars next to me on the highway, the wind, engine noises. So it's everything combined, not just the engine in this vehicle that's a little bit louder.
And I'm going to share some tips on just driving this vehicle and learning about how to get acclimated with the engine, the transmission, so that you can actually drive very, very quietly and smooth compared to if you're just driving like a maniac. Yeah, and as you get used to the way that the engine, the throttle, the transmission, and all that torque, how it responds, you'll actually get to a point where you kind of feel exactly the amount of gas that you need to give this engine to produce the amount of acceleration that you need. So you don't have to rev up the engine unnecessary. So that can save you gas and it'll reduce on the engine noise. So let's go ahead and just give this a nice, smooth acceleration. Right there. As you can see, I'm still keeping pace with this other Highlander in front of me right here, but you don't hear that much noise. And again, you'll get used to this over time. Of course, it would help my gas mileage not having all of these lights everywhere. All right, so one more time, again, we're just gonna do a nice smooth acceleration. Nice dog. There's no need to pretend that you're like in Top Gear or Fast and Furious and try doing stuff like throttling like this. You get all the noise and you're not even going any faster. So all you'd be doing is just embarrassing yourself and wasting gas by just, driving like a maniac. So just be nice and easy on the gas pedal, and your Rav4 will reward you with, again, a smooth and quiet ride.
As far as the ride itself goes, well, it's definitely better than the Broncos 2022 season, that's for sure. My biggest complaint so far with this Rav4 is how thin the installation is for the sound is, especially compared to the 2004 Solera, which was just such a heavily built vehicle. This one, you could hear all the tire noises, the wind outside, the other ambient cars. It's not a very private experience when you're driving.
Really? Yeah. Good times. Welcome to California, everybody. And that's an example of where, again, the installation from outside sounds could be a little bit better in the Rav4. So, yes.
I think it's a great idea taking photos of the engine periodically to compare, especially if you need a reference photo if you end up taking anything apart. I'll also take videos so you could hear the sounds of the engine, if there's any changes, and I'll also take photos of like fluids like the oil to see if it's changed over time. This Rav4 is made mostly in North America, and that's an okay thing. That Toyota Solera, that's still going 20 years, 240,000 miles, that was made in Kentucky. So Toyota definitely knows what they're doing out here in North America. I know, though, Japan, they are impeccable with their details as well. But at the end of the day, I mean, this car is still engineered by the Japanese, so I feel really good about this car going the long haul. And so far, everything has ran pretty smoothly. The engine that I specifically chose also is the gasoline-only model. It's got 2.5 liters, 4 cylinders, so it's a proper engine, no turbo. Great on the gas mileage. I find that I get about at least 30 to up to around 40 on the highway, depending on which way the wind is blowing, how level the highway is. However, once my city driving is factored back in, I'm averaging around 31 miles a gallon. Pretty good stuff.
Maintenance-wise, this is a very easy to service vehicle. Very easy access to all the spark plugs. I was taking off this little beauty cover. Oil, easy. Engine filter. I actually will just shake out all the dust and large debris every few months. There's no hybrid battery or hybrid charging system in this one, so you don't have to worry about any high voltage wires to damage or damaging me. So very easy again to maintain this vehicle. See, for main oil changes, I did get the first one at 5,000 miles. I know Toyota recommends the first one at around 10,000, but I always feel like for a new engine, doing something a little bit sooner is better. So I got my first oil change at 5,000, and then I got the other one at 15, 22,000, and at 30,000. So now I'm back to the every 10,000 mile interval. But first 30,000 miles, it's already had 4 oil changes. So definitely plan on keeping this car for the long haul.
This is the XLE model, which means it's one step higher in trim level than the LE, and probably like 20 steps down from the most premium. I don't know how many trims Toyota even makes in this thing anymore. There's so many. But it has all the conveniences that I love, especially, can't really see it that well, but the moonroof, this for me is a necessity. It has a nice heated steering wheel, so this is great for those cold mornings. It has power liftgate, which I actually don't mind just manually opening it, but it has that. I did wish it had leather seats though, but we'll go more into that. But it's okay though, because I like the color of these light gray and white seats. And hey, with all things, you can always, aftermarket replace them, just like I did with the sound system. I did do a video about upgrading the sound system in this car, so I did add a subwoofer, as well as changing the dashboard speakers, as well as the rear speakers to get a little bit more bass and more clear sound in this car.
That's the part that's going to give people some anxiety, and that's taking a razor blade to your car. But just keep in mind that you're doing this to replace it with something much better. Wait, how much did I spend on this car again? And a power driver seat. So the power seat, again, this is something that's so critical to have, because that enables me to get just the right adjustments on the height, the tilt, the lumbar. And I mean, what's worse than like having that manual, kind of adjustments when you're trying to drive on the highway, and then you're 1 foot on the gas pedal, try to tilt? No, like having the driver's seat powered is so nice to have. Passengers, yeah, they're on their own on this one. There's no power option for the passenger side.
The headrest though has some opportunity. It's a little bit stiff, so no matter if I put this up or down, there's just no comfortable position. So, I mean, it's there just to be there, I guess.
Hey, so here's the touch screen. It's kind of nice. I actually use Apple CarPlay, so typically once my phone's plugged in, you don't see this screen, you actually just see the Apple CarPlay, which is a huge bonus. And I like having these tangible knobs right over here, especially for the volume. Yeah, one thing that actually was a deal breaker for me with the 2016 Civic that I used to have was actually the car not having tangible audio control. I just like having knobs, and the Solera had a huge volume knob as well. So these big knobs right here, these are used to control the temperature, which honestly, I don't find myself having to adjust the temperature very often. I'm gonna go ahead and sync these. That way they're actually both the same, but you could actually have dual climate control if you want one side to be cooler or warmer than the other. I kind of wish that this knob was more or less for the fan speed, because if you want to change the fan to be higher or lower, you have to kind of hunt for these buttons over here, which are kind of small. It would have been nice to have the fan being one of these two knobs, like maybe temperature on one side and fan speed on the other. But instead, they opted for these tiny little buttons right here.
The one thing that is kind of odd though is up here, to turn these lights on, the tiny little button right here. And when it's dark, it's not the easiest thing to locate that button. So I do kind of wish they would have done what the Solera did, and actually you push the entire light, and that's what would turn the light on. And I wish that they would have done the same feature on the Rav4, because this button, trying to find that button is really hard sometimes at nights.
The XLE does have a push to start feature, so that's the button right there. I actually prefer feeling actually turning a key, so I kind of wish that I could turn a key, but this is what I got. But by the way, this here's for my Rockford Fosgate subwoofer. This is not part of the standard build of the car, but you can again install a custom sub if you want. I usually turn this off, which actually is the automatic start-stop system. So when you actually push the brakes hard, the engine will turn itself off. I don't like the feeling of the engine is turning off an intersection, so I typically turn this on every single time so that my engine just stays on. Again, I just like the feeling of the engine always staying on. Plus, I have no idea what it's going to be like for longevity of the engine or the parts, like the starter, if you're just turning it on and off all the time. All right, if we open this up, oh, that's where those coupons went. Just kidding. So this is actually my own organizing tray that I got from Amazon for like, I don't know, 10 bucks. But this kind of gives you some more space in this really deep storage area, which by itself is pretty good too. But I like having a little more organization inside there. But yeah, that's the center console. Drink trays, nothing too fancy there. All right, and up here we have this is like my own custom Spigen MagSafe mount. The purpose of this, of course, is so that I could have like a dash cam right here. So record all kinds of traffic. And then I also use this also to film myself, of course. So dual purpose. It does not charge though. So on this side, you have a few more of the options here, including that heated steering wheel, which I think it's kind of funny that you have to hunt for that button down there. It would have been nice having that heated steering wheel button, I don't know, maybe on the steering wheel. And there's also the button for the power lift gate right over here. Down here hidden, you'll see the gas and the engine hood release. Gosh, first few weeks owning this car, I kept accidentally popping the engine by accident instead of the gas cap. Have you done that before too? As far as space down here, it's actually not too bad. You know, I have enough space where I could at least, you know, keep my feet stretched out, something to actually push on right there. And this is not a huge car, right? So for me, I'm 5'7", this is gonna be subjective, but I kind of like having my knee kind of rest on this door right there. Although that could have been a little softer, especially if Toyota anticipates people using this for the same purpose. Same here, I'll often just rest my knee or my leg right on this right here. So it's pretty comfortable in this position. I mean, I guess if you're a little bit wider, maybe that could become a little bit claustrophobic, but I think it's perfect for my shape. And also having this armrest right here. Thankfully, this is actually soft so that I can set my arm nicely right over there. And then of course, standard buttons, nothing too crazy to speak of on this door panel. So this is what all the instrument clusters and buttons look like at night. You turn the lights on, and then they do give you more illuminated buttons. Even on the steering wheel itself, you have illuminated buttons. Although not so much on the door controls though. Those don't light up, which is interesting, but everything else does. And then up here, so these buttons, again, they're very hard to see at night what these do. Of course, that's your light right there. But if you were driving at night, tough to see. And I really like having this nice big shifter to switch gears, even though of course it's not a stick shift, but yeah, still kind of feels nice to be able to shift something. I kind of miss actually having the big old parking brake. I'm not sure, again, simple pleasures, but that is automated now. So I can't get to experience that feeling, but it's all good. On this side, we have our heated seats. So this is for both, of course, the passenger and the driver. I like having a high and a low option for this. Of course, it's turned off right now. But it's nice having that low, which is my preferred setting. Because the high, sometimes I feel like I pooped my pants, it's too hot. So low actually is the preferred setting there.
That's gonna be another huge talking point actually too. So a lot of the oohs and the ahs I'm gonna have, you know, in this 2020 RAV4, you know, might be standard technology that a lot of other cars have, but for me, this is like new stuff, like having a touch screen right here. Like the Solera, all I had was buttons, so this is new. So I just have a feeling that there's gonna be someone like that's gonna troll this video like with a BMW or Mercedes, like, well, we've had that technology for 10 years. That Toyota has old stuff. Okay, that's great, but for me, this is really cool. All right, how comfortable is sleeping in this RAV4? Well, actually, there's plenty of space to fit a decent-sized memory foam topper or even an air mattress if you wanted to. The only thing that cuts into the space, though, is that subwoofer that I added on the right side there. So that does need to be removed whenever I want the full width of the space. That's where I wish that Toyota would have given the option for the integrated JBL sub, but it was not available for our trim level. As you can see, we have the rear seats folded, but we go all the way up to the front seats. We're both 5'7", so we have plenty of space to actually stretch our feet all the way to the very end. No problem. Although, there isn't the height needed for us to fully sit up though, so you do have to kind of like stay laid back when you're sleeping back there. But again, plenty of foot space. Also, if you keep the moonroof open, we like to have like a little fan to actually blow nice, cool, fresh air from outside. And so that's again why that moonroof is so critical for our features. The one thing that makes it a little bit uncomfortable though is the fact that the seats don't fold completely back. So there's a little bit of an angle so that it makes it hard to sleep on your side. And also I find that when we're moving furniture or large boxes, they have to also be pushed up at an angle. So again, that's one of the only downsides to the design of the trunk space in the RAV4. Aside from that, there's plenty of cargo space in the back of the RAV4, and it's nice having that security cover as well. Have you ever watched like a movie or listened to music or TV with the engine off? Because I actually do that quite often. And in this RAV4, I find that when the engine's off, but you have your accessories on, they'll actually shut themselves off automatically after about like 10 minutes or so. I think it's to preserve the battery life in case you accidentally left it on. But I do find that it is inconvenient, and I do miss actually having a key ignition where you could keep it into accessories mode. So on the outside surface, all of the paint, the windows, alloy rims, and all of the plastic trim has really maintained its shine and its integrity over the last 2 years. I have the XLE, so I have the 5-spoke alloy rims, and I think these things are really easy to clean, as well as there's plenty of gaps to get your hand inside to clean inside the rims. If you compare this with the limited trim wheels, like with all those spokes, I almost feel like you're getting punished by getting the higher trim. Like, they probably spent as much time cleaning these rims as they did preparing for this photo shoot. The only real scratches that we have on this car right now are actually scratches from our cat just trying to climb on top of the hood, which is totally fine because she's only just trying to show some love. Plus, she also really enjoys naps on top of the car as well. And I do admit, speaking of getting on top of the car, in order to wash and with the sponge on the top of the RAV4, I do actually have to grab a step stool to fully reach. So again, if you're like me, 5'7", you're gonna need a step stool, because I just barely reached the top of the Solera, and that's of course a much shorter vehicle. And speaking of Solera, so I like to get the handles of the cars, but I find that the handles, because the XLE has those automatic door handle unlockers, they pose a little bit of a problem. Sometimes I find that when I'm actually washing my car, I'll have to take the key fob and actually put it away from the car, because I will accidentally, when going over with the wet sponge, the little spot to unlock or lock the door. So whenever I'm going over the sponge, it'll actually keep going on and off. So again, I'll actually take the key fob out when washing my car. Oh, and also take it from me and don't learn the hard way, but standing on top of the RAV4 is not as stable as I thought. It's actually more like a plastic or a very thin sheet of metal, so it did leave an impression after I was done pulling these persimmons. But thankfully, over the last few months, that impression did actually pop itself back up again. But yeah, you want to leave an impression, just not the impression that's the shape of a foot on top of your car. Now, while there's not that much clearance on this car for any kind of rocky riverbank or really going truly off-roading, if you ask any cat in your neighborhood, I bet they'll tell you there's just plenty of clearance for a good old cat party under there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all got something useful out of watching this video, or if you wanted to add any stories from your RAV4, I would love to hear about them. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you found this to be enjoyable, and we'll hope to see you back for another video. Thanks, guys.